You know what pisses me off about the media, right? First off, they did this report. They had a newspaper article a while back, and they said within 10 years the Latino community would become a majority. And all of a sudden they start talking about how states and this and that and the other thing will become democratic or Democrat, right? And then they came out with this report, and it said, oh, well, you know what? The Latinos are already a majority among babies, so they have minority majority status, and white people have majority minority status. And I guess in order to be a majority, you have to have an overall majority. You have to dominate in most or all age groups, and to have an overall minority status, you have to be a minority in most or all age groups. But apart from that, they were talking about how states and cities and towns and villages across the country will, or at least most of them, will become democratic states and cities and towns and villages and what have you. And I think that's an undermine, but that's an underblow. That just gives them discredibility. It doesn't give them any credibility if they're going to view the entire Latino community as being heavily Democrat. But let me just point out that the majority of most Latinos that are ever going to be in favor of open borders and illegal immigration are going to either be here, are people that either come here illegally to either steal and work under the property line, or people that have or commit criminal offenses or whatever, or people that, or welfare and what have you, or people that have relatives that are here illegally, or people that are born to parents who are illegal aliens. Though most of them are, if not all of them, are going to be in favor of open borders and illegal immigration, and I would say that's about 60%. And then you have, but there's 30% of the Latino community is against illegal immigration. Because why? Because they don't have relatives that are here illegally, and if they do, they've been educated to know the dangers and understand the dangers of illegal immigration. Okay? And apart from that, they didn't come here illegally themselves. Like the ones that are trying to come here illegally. They didn't do that. So I would say 30% of your Mexicans and 30% of your overall Latinos are against illegal immigration. Now, you have probably 60% of blacks out of the 100% there is that are against illegal immigration, and 90% of whites that are against illegal immigration, right? Now, they're sitting there saying, well, you know, Latinos have replaced whites as as the fastest growing minority. And I would say, well, not whites, but blacks. And but I guess according to the census, by mid-century they're saying that both blacks and Latinos are going to be majority within mid-century. Now, if you think about it, that number of blacks and they're both going to be majority. If they're right, they're both going to be majority. Just that Latinos are going to be in a 10% higher percentage of a majority than blacks. They're both going to be majority status. It's not just going to be one or the other. And let's say that is right. But then let's say you have 30% of Latinos that are against illegal immigration. That number might go up to 35%. And the number of blacks against illegal immigration might go up to 65. And the number of whites against illegal immigration might go up to 95. So as it is now, if you multiply or add 30, if you multiply 30 times 60 times 90, you get a big, huge number of people that are against illegal immigration, right? If you multiply the 30 of the Latinos plus If you add the 30% of Latinos that are against illegal immigration, plus the majority of blacks that are against illegal immigration, the 60% rather, and the 90% of whites, that's going to give you just as much of a big number. And that number can go up to as much as 10%, 20% come mid-century. So what I'm trying to say here, the media likes to talk about, well, states, this and that. They don't know what they're talking about. And I'm not sure I know I'm not sure I know all the facts. Because maybe that number might go down. And maybe most Latinos and most blacks will be in favor of open borders and illegal immigration. And then if that's the case, if not, but you only need a small percent. If that's the case, I would say that in most areas of the countries, if there's not that many of a minority to be, a portion to be against illegal immigration, then I'd understand why you would say that it would be easier for them to get their way in terms of electing people to allow open borders and stuff like that. But the way it stands now, you have people talking about, well, hey, you should be a Republican or a Democrat, right? Republican. Okay, and anyways, this leads to a whole new topic that I'm going to talk about. And my name is Michael Long, and thank you for joining me. And today we're going to talk about third-party politics because this is a very interesting topic, as you know. Okay, now let me give you a brief history. Ross Perot ran as an independent in the 1990s. And before the government ever took over the voting industry, right, you knew who he was. You knew who most of the third-party candidates were, because ever since the 30s, they were at least been able to have a debate on stage. And of course, the same rhetoric then applies today. Oh, you can't vote third party because look what happens. You might decide for votes, or Republicans might win, or the Democrats, or blah, whatever. But they were at least able to be on the debates. And now, ever since the federal government came up with their election laws and took over the voting industry, you no longer are able to see third-party candidates. In fact, media controls most of it anyways. Whether it be Fox News, CNN News, Fox Business, CNBC, NBC, CNBC, ABC, NBC, all the corporate television networks. They all control the debates. And the mainstream debates are controlled by the government. And in either case, you never saw in 2008 Chuck Baldwin, who ran under the Constitution Party, on stage. And then you never heard a peekaboo about him because the media just didn't give him any coverage. And then they turn around and say, but if you vote for a third party, you'll decipher votes from the Republicans, or the GOP, the grand old party. The Democrats will win, right? That's what they keep talking about. And they do this in a psychological format so that you'll vote in a mob psychology fascism, in which you in that mob, if you're conservative, vote Republican instead of voting for people who matter. Now I'm going to say this much: I support Ron Paul, and I support most of his ideology, and that's probably why I'm going to vote for him if my voter registration card's still valid. And if not, we'll have to renew it, and then maybe I can vote for him. But anyways, but suppose he drops out and Gary Johnson drops out. Well, I'm not going to vote for the rest of the losers on the stage, so I'm going to vote for whoever the Constitution Party candidate's going to be. But when you think about it, most people aren't going to do that. Now, people sit there and say, well, you'll decipher votes and this and that. Well, it all depends. Because look, even if you had nobody voting for any third party, the Republicans would still have to get some form of the independent, moderate votes in order to win. So they can't just go out with the conservatives are the majority in this country, but they're not strong enough to actually have the GOP win. So and CNN talks about it a lot too. They got to have independents on their side, or the Democrats are going to win. And that's exactly why Obama won, and that's exactly why Bush back in 2004. But anyways, I don't see now. If you have 50% or 30% or whatever voting for a third party and 30 or 50% voting for the Republicans, and I understand it being split and having the Democrats win or an independent or whatever. But suppose you have 90%, if not all, conservatives and maybe a few independents here and there, maybe more, then that third party, whether it be the Constitution Party, the Libertarian Party, the Independent Party, is definitely going to win the White House in 2012 or Congress if it's a congressional election. And so, and then if 10% of people vote for a third party, whether it be the Constitution Party or the Independent Party or whatever, the only way that they can decipher votes is if it's on the Republicans is if it's a very close vote between the Republicans and the Democrats. If the Republicans are winning in a trajectory of a landslide, there's no way that a 10% vote on the Constitution Party or any other third party for that matter is going to decipher any votes. So when the media sits there and says, oh, well, you'll decipher votes from the Republicans, I don't think they know what they're talking about half the time. And first off, they're biased because they want you to try to vote for someone that is a globalist, that's going to destroy the country and bring forth a new world order. These people that are owned by the IMF, World Bank, and the New World Order people, the globalists, the Bilderberg, etc. They don't want you to vote for someone that matters. And I'm not saying to vote third party or Republican or Democrat, but you might have a conservative running as a Democrat. What are you going to do? Vote against him because he's a Democrat? We can't vote based on party affiliation anymore, America. We got to vote for the man who matters. Okay, and so we got to stop listening to people like Sarah Palin and Michelle Bachmann and John McCain and Bill O'Reilly, or Bill the Clown, if you will, and have those kind of people sit there and say, well, you can't vote third party because if you do, you're going to decipher votes from the Republicans. That's fear-mongering. That's fear-mongering, okay? It doesn't matter. Yeah, Ron Paul made a statement about it, but he wasn't... what he was talking about was the fact that it's extremely difficult to run as a third-party candidate and win when you have people in the media that are biased and when you have the election laws that are in place. He didn't say never to vote third party because you're going to decipher votes. That's something that Sarah Palin came out with. That's something that Bill O'Reilly came out with. Okay? It's simply not true if you did all your math. Okay, now Chuck Baldwin was the Constitution Party's candidate back in 2008, and he lost because he didn't get that much support. Okay? And you know what happened? Barack Obama won because, and it didn't really matter about that 10%. John McCain was a piece of garbage. Okay? So, that's why. Not too many people voted for John McCain, and that's why Barack won. But Barack Obama's also... I'm not going to go into Barack Obama as much. But I'm going to say this much. Third-party politics is a very interesting field. It's a very interesting expertise, if you will. It's something that matters in this country. And the Constitution Party, of all the third parties, they're claiming that they're the one party that goes beyond the rhetoric. And in most cases, they're probably right. Now, they got a strict leadership. And so, where you can't run under the Constitution Party unless you're able to back Ron Paul's ideology at least most or 99% of the way. They're not looking for 100%, but they don't want no 50 or 60 or 30%. They want you to at least support the Ron Paul-minded candidates 90% of the way, or 98% of the way. And they'll do political backgrounds and everything. They will not let you run unless you are strong and true to your convictions. And if you decide that you're going to turn around in the middle of a debate and say, oh, I'm pro abortion and this and that and the other thing, they're going to turn around and exclude you from their party. Now, why don't the Republicans have a leadership like that? Well, because you got boneheads like Michael Steele. Anyways, my name's Michael Long, and thank you for joining me. Appreciate it.